Okay, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, my name is Gerritzen. I'm Chief Creative at Ilphonic.
Okay, is this your first time here on Reboot?
This is my first time at Reboot. This is my first time in the region. It's been amazing, absolutely amazing. Like I had no idea how cool Dubrovnik was and just the city itself. Yeah, I didn't really do much research on the on how cool this city was, and so it's been an amazing surprise.
Awesome to hear that. You were a speaker here on Reboot Develop 2023. Can you tell us a little bit, what did you talk about? What was your topic?
So our panels today, we're lucking out because it's outside and the rain stops, but it's on game design and audio and how they have kind of changed the players and add to the game. It's really exciting.
Okay, thank you. Big F.E.A.R fan here. I loved F.E.A.R, played all of them when I was younger. Can you tell us, you were a level designer on that game. Can you tell us how did you use that level design to subvert player expectations?
Oh man, going back, that was, man, almost like 15 years ago, I think. That was really early in my career, and I remember working so much on that game. And it was back when you just would put your heart and soul, and not that I don't put my heart and soul into it, but it was just one of those things where I was just a designer, so I was just in charge of my maps. And the game, the reason why the game was so innovative was the level designer actually made the combat. We placed where the AI went, we placed where the triggers for the events are, and working on that game was so much just creative freedom for the first time as me, because I started out as an artist, and then I was a level designer for F.E.A.R, and I was just doing as many gags and shock moments that I possibly could, and it was really rad because the designers that I worked with, we all would try to outdo each other. And it was kind of like just this really weird collaborative process. And I still to this day look back in that game and just think of it so fondly. It's rad for you to bring up, you know, such a deep cut, honestly.
Thank you for the shock moments, though. They were really good. I remember that, probably all of them, because I played them so many times. I probably know a lot of them right now, like a lot of them. So they can't spook me anymore. But thank you for making that game. Can you tell us your first roles in game dev industry, and how did they influence your position today?
So my first role, geez, 99 or 2000, and it was as a concept artist slash like junior 3D artist. And so it was at Surreal Software, and it was on a game called Drakan. And I had my college roommate got me in, and it was the thing that it taught me was just how to really work and how to put your energy into what you wanted, because I didn't want to be that. And so from there, I got into effects, and from effects I learned how to work with levels, and from the levels I became a level designer. And then I just kept on moving and moving, because my goal was to be like, I remember my friend saying, you need to get into games. This is the raddest thing. And I was trying to be a comic book artist. And I wanted to be the guy that was saying what you're doing and what we're making. And so it really taught me, you know, don't just sit back and relax. Like, always chase what you're trying to do. And so for me, what that first 3-4 years of learning and just figuring out where I could go next and how I could keep on going towards that target, that's really what I learned, was you can get into games as a QA person, as like a junior, anything, and all you have to do is stay positive and learn everything you can, and don't expect to just jump into that position. It took me, man, almost 8 or 9 years to be able to like really drive my first game, and it was a small, crappy game, but I still was able to do it. And that's the big thing that I'd say, like, for anyone that's trying to get into games and wants that, you know, to be a studio director or a game designer or lead whatever, it takes time, and just learn everything you can, because now I've done all of those other parts, so when I talk to my devs that are doing those positions, I know what they're doing, and you know, that's just the big thing. I mean, it's like anything. You need to learn how to master something before you can really be the, you know, the top tier that you want to be.
And of course, not to be afraid of failure, because video games learn us to, if you fail, you just load up and go again, right?
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly. And that is, you know, very true. I mean, you gotta just deal with the cards you're dealt with, and don't just say, I'm done. You know, you gotta keep on working.
Never quit. Yeah. And that, which you mentioned, competitiveness between the colleagues, which is a good competitive, kind of like a sportsmanship. Yeah. So that's also, I think, a really good, an important thing between the teams.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about competitiveness. You're working, or you worked on MLG?
I worked at MLG 7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were into esports. How did you get into esports?
So I was working on a game called Blacklight Retribution. Blacklight Tango Down was the previous one, and I started to meet YouTubers and pro gamers, and so with Tango Down, I met Hector at Optic, and I met a lot of the other like Optic guys before they were really like the massive thing that they became. And I knew about MLG because, you know, it was one of those great, you know, esports brands. And I ended up meeting those guys and becoming friends with them. And 1 year Sundance said, you know, hey, I've got this position. Would you be interested? And I was like, yeah, like I love what you guys do. And I was in an interesting part of my career, and I was a developer, so they're like, we need an ex-dev to be able to go and talk to different publishers and developers on trying to kind of expand MLG and esports as a whole. And I joined, and the big thing that, you know, Sundance said was like, what would you do in this position? And I said, bring CSGO to America. And that was my goal. And I was there for 2 years, and I helped bring CSGO, the first CSGO in North America, which was amazing, and worked, you know, really closely with Valve and all of the pro teams. And yeah, that was the big thing. And then we got bought by Activision, and then all of the developers and publishers were like, hey, you guys are Activision now. So my job became really boring, and then I went and worked at Razer for a year as head of esports there. And then I got back into the game development after that. So I feel like I've got a master's in esports, a doctorate in game development.
Well said. Before we move to the next question, which team are you cheering on for in Counter-Strike?
Oh, man.
Which organization do you like the most?
I haven't been up on it, but Liquid is one of my favorite teams. I worked with them very closely at Razer. I love how they've expanded. I would say that, like, you know, that era, Liquid had a really rad lineup. I got to know some of those guys. But I gotta be honest, like, after I left MLG and Razer, I had major esports burnout, and so I do keep up with the people, but the who's on what, like, I couldn't tell you anything about COD esports right now. I could say that, like, you know, I know who the champions are, but like, game development has always been my true love. So as soon as I left esports, I kept up with the people. But yeah, it's a weird one, because I would say that my true love is Counter-Strike. That's what got me into games. That was the first game that I ever played that was multiplayer, and I want to say like 96, and I was like, it was Counter-Strike 1.5, and it was when they still had scientists that you would have to like extract out, and that was the first game that I ever played where my buddy was like, the guy that you're playing is in the other office, and it blew my mind. And so that game, Half-Life 1, those were like the defining moments. Like I always played video games, but I still remember CSGO or Counter-Strike as being that thing that really drove me into making games. I made mods, I made maps. Me and Gooseman would like talk all the time in emails and forums, and it was like, it's just like, that's how old I am, I guess I should say.
So what is your opinion then about Counter-Strike 2?
It's a lot of tech on smoke, which I'm excited about.
Yeah, it's kind of...
I don't know enough about it, and I haven't touched it yet. I'm excited that Valve evolved it, and you know, I mean, I'm sure every single pro player, every single anyone is like, okay, this is a huge step to the side, but I feel like every game needs to evolve at least every 7 years, just because of technology and because of art and graphics and X, Y, and Z, but also like, you know, you can't really show a game that's not evolving on, you know, as a big title if it looks old, and because you want to be able to evolve a medium that people are watching in order for new people to see it and go, oh, this doesn't look like, you know, crap. So I'm excited for the visual reboot that they're doing and all of that. I'm really excited to see how all of this smoke core gameplay, you know, changes.
Yeah, the pro players will find everything, every little trick about it. So.
And also I feel like, you know, the new game will hopefully kind of hit those pieces that are just, you know, legacy just issues, or the honestly the cheats and all of the other little small things that, you know, I feel the pros are so good at these games where it is crazy how like they kind of burn out at, you know, in their 20s, which is, you know, it's just kind of a fact. Like your hand-eye coordination starts to degrade, and everyone's just like, it's such a weird thing. Like I feel like esports and competitive gaming is such a cool thing, but it's like it's so new. Like it's one of those things where I feel like it's just on the cusp of becoming mainstream and coming to, you know, bigger, more normal. Like Europe has embraced competitive gaming so much better than the States. When I was at MLG, like we did stuff on ESPN and we did stuff with other like, you know, pretty big mainstream elements, but it never has really broke the way that I feel Europe has with competitive gaming. Like games are more, I feel like they're more welcomed by adults than in the States. In the States, like video games are just now, because I'm becoming, you know, I mean, I'm a father of 3. They're all older now. If I see them playing video games, it's really cool. But I've talked to too many people in the past five years. Like, no, your kid should play video games. There's actually good reasons to play video games. Your kid could be a pro player if they're truly talented. Your kid could become a YouTuber or a streamer. And that's, I think, you know, the States are just now starting to realize that video games aren't just a whim. It's actually a truly, you know, it's a medium. It's a massive medium.
It's a problem in Europe as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is. Everybody, we're fighting that for years and years on, and I think we'll be fighting that a couple of more years until it becomes something good.
Yeah, but I mean, when you see the events, the competitive events like IME and the stuff that ESL would throw, it's just like, those are so massive, and there's so many more than what, like, you know, we might get a COD Majors or a TI, you know, when they were in the States, where you could fill a stadium, but it's just not close to as big as it is in Europe. I mean, it's really cool.
With this, you answered basically 2 of my upcoming questions. So for the end, I would love to hear, and our viewers would also love to hear, a little bit of advice for the young and upcoming talent in game dev industry or in esports. What would you tell to them?
I mean, it goes back to the when I started in the game industry. Like, get in however you can, being a QA person, a producer, a junior artist, a concept artist. I mean, and then learn and kind of just spread everywhere that you can. If you see an opening that, like, hey, we need a person to jump in the mocap suit, jump in the mocap suit. Even if you feel like an asshole, still do it. If someone needs like voice acting or anything, like, you know, I did voice acting in F.E.A.R. I was like, we had a demo for E3 and they're like, hey, we need a person. And I was like, I want to do it. And always just keep on throwing yourself into it. Throw yourself so deep into it that you just become invaluable to the company. And keep positive. It's kind of crazy. Like, don't be the kind of, be positive. Don't be that person that's trying to be smarter than the other person. Like, learn as much as you can, and then just become that person that knows everything. I mean, and it's all about, yeah, just being that person that someone wants to work with. And this is so much of a you know, I don't know, like a family. You know, when you come to these events and you are smiling and happy and interacting with people in a positive way, they always remember you. I mean, that's how I got my job at MLG, because I was just, hey, I love what you guys do, and I got a job out of it. And then that's pretty much everything. Like my job at IllFonic, I was really good friends with Chuck for years. Like, we would have rival games and we became friends because we were both positive guys, and we would see each other at events. And then, you know, X years later, he's like, hey, I need a creative director. That's how I got this job. And I didn't interview. I didn't have to go and meet anyone else. It was just the CEO and I were such good friends, and I had helped him out with like previous games and introducing him to other like-minded people, that he knew I was the right guy. And here I am 6 years later, still at the same company, and we're, you know, we made a better company by just keeping that, you know, positivity and trying to do, you know, the next big thing, the next great thing, and knowing your limitations as well. You know, you don't want to be, you know, a junior guy with a couple $1,000s in the bank account trying to make a GTA killer. Make what you can make, but learn from that and evolve from it. That's huge. It's all about it. It's like, you're not going to do the greatest game in the world on your first try. But if you do, doing that follow-up is extremely hard. And then it's learning from that and just keep on going. Because the game industry and the world changes so much. Doing the same thing over and over again might not work the way that it did last time. And don't have that be a crushing blow. It's all about just really just staying at as positive as you can.
Okay. Thank you very much for this advice and for this interview. Enjoy Reboot.
Thank you very much.